What if the person you least expect to change your life is sitting right next to you? In this mind-blowing experiment, Elon Musk goes undercover as a homeless man in a fancy restaurant. The shocking truth that unfolds will make you question how we really treat others. Are we truly kind, or only when it's convenient? Watch till the end to see the powerful twist that will leave you speechless. Elon Musk, feeling a rare moment of stillness, was struck by a thought: how would people treat him if they didn't recognize him? What would happen if he appeared to have nothing? The idea turned into a challenge he couldn't resist. Weeks later, dressed in second-hand clothes, scuffed sneakers, and a scruffy wig, he transformed into a homeless man, erasing the billionaire identity that defined him. He chose the Copper Elm, an upscale restaurant in Santa Fe, as his test ground. Known for its exclusivity, it was the perfect place to observe how people would react to someone who looked down on their luck. With a deep breath, Elon entered the restaurant, feeling an unfamiliar sense of invisibility. Patrons barely glanced up, but the staff eyed him with judgment. The hostess hesitated, her smile faltering as she assessed him. This experiment wasn't about shaming anyone, but rather understanding human nature. How far would people go in looking beyond the surface? Elon's heart raced as the test began. Would kindness prevail, or would society's judgments be hard to shake? The answers would soon unfold in surprising ways. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice polite but strained. "Yes," Elon replied, his tone steady but soft. "I'd like a table for one." The hostess glanced toward the bar where a manager stood watching the interaction closely. Her smile faltered further. "We're fully booked tonight," she said quickly, her eyes flicking to a row of empty tables. Elon caught the glance but said nothing. Instead, he waited, letting the silence grow uncomfortable. From across the room, a young server named Sophia noticed the exchange. She had only been working at the Copper Elm for a few months, saving up for culinary school. Something about the man's demeanor struck her, not pity, but curiosity. She could tell he wasn't just another wanderer looking for shelter. "I concede him," Sophia called out, stepping forward before the hostess could dismiss him entirely. The room went quiet for a moment. All eyes were on her, including the managers, who frowned but said nothing. Elon offered Sophia a faint smile as she led him to a small table near the kitchen doors. It wasn't the prime spot, but it was a seat, and he was grateful. "Thank you," he said, his voice sincere. Sophia nodded, placing a menu in front of him. "Take your time," she said warmly, ignoring the whispers that started up around her. Elon observed the room carefully as he flipped through the menu. The glances from other diners ranged from curious to disdainful. He overheard snippets of conversation, speculation about who he was and why he was there. The staff, too, seemed uneasy. One server whispered loudly to another, "What's he even doing here?" Another added, "This is going to scare off the regulars." Elon noted their reactions silently, each one adding to the picture he was piecing together. As Sophia returned to take his order, Elon decided on something simple: soup and bread. "That's all?" she asked, her tone kind but surprised. "That's all," Elon replied. Sophia didn't question him further. She disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Elon alone with his thoughts in the judgmental stares of the room. He could feel the weight of their gazes, but it didn't faze him. If anything, it confirmed why he was there. People often talked about kindness and empathy, but how often did they practice it when it truly mattered? The stage was set, and Elon's experiment was only beginning. As Elon waited for his meal, the tension in the room grew palpable. Diners whispered behind napkins, some glancing at him with barely concealed disdain. A man at a nearby table leaned toward his companion, muttering, "What's management thinking, letting someone like that in here?" Elon didn't react, keeping his focus on the room. He noticed the small details, the way the hostess avoided looking in his direction, the bartender chuckling quietly with the server, and even the manager's occasional glances of disapproval. Every reaction painted a vivid picture of how appearances dictated perceptions. Sophia returned with a tray, carefully setting down a steaming bowl of tomato bisque and a small basket of bread. She placed the dishes in front of him with the same care she would for any other customer. "Enjoy your meal," she said, her smile genuine. "Thank you," Elon said, meeting her gaze. He could sense that Sophia wasn't just doing her job, she was acting out of kindness. As he ate, he noticed Sophia moving between tables, her pace quick but her demeanor calm. She worked tirelessly, ensuring every customer felt attended to. Elon watched as she handled even the most demanding patrons with grace, her patience unshaken despite the occasional condescending remark. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. At one point, an older woman called Sophia over, clearly agitated. Why are you wasting time on him? She asked, gesturing subtly toward Elon. People like that shouldn't even be allowed in here. Sophia's cheeks flushed, but she maintained her composure. I believe everyone deserves respect, Mom, she replied firmly. The woman huffed, turning back to her meal without another word. Elon couldn't help but admire Sophia's courage. It wasn't easy to stand up for someone society deemed unworthy, especially in a place like this. As he finished his soup, a different server approached his table, a man in his late 20s with a stiff demeanor. Were you planning to order anything else? He asked, his tone bordering on rude. No, thank you, Elon replied calmly. The server gave him a tight-lipped smile before walking away, muttering something under his breath. Elon caught the words waste of space and noted them mentally. Across the room, a young couple exchanged nervous glances. The woman whispered, "What if he tries to ask us for money?" Her partner shrugged, but his expression mirrored her discomfort. Through it all, Elon remained composed, his mind racing with thoughts. This wasn't just about how he was treated. It was about the assumptions people made without knowing a thing about him. As Sophia cleared his table, she paused for a moment. Is everything okay? She asked softly. Elon looked up, surprised by her question. Yes, thank you for your kindness, he said. Her expression softened, and she gave him a small nod before moving on. In that brief moment, he saw the humanity he had hoped to find, a glimmer of empathy in a sea of judgment. The atmosphere in the restaurant remained tense, but Elon felt a sense of clarity. The experiment was revealing more than he had anticipated, and the next phase would take things to an entirely different level. The tension in the restaurant reached its peak as Elon stood from his table. His meal was finished, but his experiment was far from over. Slowly, he walked toward the center of the room, his every movement drawing the attention of staff and diners alike. Sophia, carrying a tray of empty glasses, stopped in her tracks, her eyes following him curiously. The manager, who had been observing him all evening, approached briskly, clearly ready to escort him out. Excuse me, sir. The manager began, his voice clipped. If you're finished, I'll have to ask you to leave our establishment. Elon raised a hand, cutting him off gently but firmly. I'll leave shortly, he said, his voice calm but commanding. But before I go, I need to say something. The room fell silent. The diners, who had spent the evening sneering and whispering, now looked on with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Elon reached up, removing the wig that had concealed his identity. Gasps rippled through the room as he straightened, revealing the familiar face that had graced countless headlines and interviews. Elon Musk, someone whispered in disbelief. He let the recognition sink in before he spoke again. Yes, it's me, he said, scanning the room. And tonight, I came here not as the man you know, but as someone you wouldn't give a second glance to. I wanted to see how people treat those they believe to be beneath them. The room remained eerily quiet, the weight of his words settling over everyone. I saw disdain. I heard whispers. I witnessed judgment, all because of how I appeared, he continued, his voice steady but tinged with disappointment. But one person in this entire room treated me with kindness and respect. His eyes found Sophia, who stood frozen, her tray still in hand. Sophia, he said, gesturing for her to step forward. You didn't know who I was, yet you chose to treat me like a human being. That's the kind of character that matters. Sophia's face turned bright red as she set down her tray and walked hesitantly toward him. I was just doing my job, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. No, Elon replied, shaking his head. You went beyond that. You showed empathy when it would have been easier to look the other way. The diners looked at Sophia, their expressions ranging from guilt to admiration. Elon turned back to the room. To those of you who judge me tonight, let this be a lesson: appearances are deceiving. The way you treat others reveals who you truly are. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Sophia. This is for you, he said. Sophia carefully opened the envelope, her hands trembling. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. She read the note aloud. Sophia, thank you for your kindness. Use this to follow your dreams, whether it's culinary school, opening your own restaurant, or whatever you choose. The world needs more people like you. Her voice cracked as she read the last words, and tears streamed down her face. The check for $50,000 slipped from her hands, and the room was filled with murmurs of shock. Elon turned to the manager. As for this restaurant, let this be a reminder to create a culture of respect for everyone who walks through your doors. The manager, flustered, nodded but said nothing. The room was silent as Elon made his way to his exit. turning to Sophia before he left. Never lose that kindness. It's rare and powerful. With that, he left, leaving a room full of people reflecting on their actions. Patrons who had whispered cruel remarks earlier shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided eye contact, while others fidgeted with their silverware. Sophia stood still, holding the note, filled with gratitude and disbelief. The manager approached her hesitantly. "You handled yourself well tonight," he said softly. Sophia glanced up, her expression unreadable. "Thank you," she replied, distant. She knew the manager had doubted Elon's presence, and now his change of heart felt too late. Across the room, a family who had stared at Elon earlier now whispered among themselves. The father sighed, his face showing guilt. "We shouldn't have judged him like that," he admitted to his son, who nodded in agreement. At another table, a woman dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. "What if we've treated other people the same way?" she whispered to her partner. Sophia quietly resumed her work, but the weight of the evening lingered. Every interaction she had with customers felt charged with an unspoken apology. It was clear that everyone had learned something they hadn't expected. After the restaurant closed, Sophia stepped into the kitchen to catch her breath. She unfolded Elon's note again and read it carefully. Beneath his message, he had written, "Kindness is the currency that never loses its value. Keep spending it." Her heart swelled and she tucked the note into her apron pocket, a reminder of what truly mattered. The staff gathered after their shift and the manager, unusually reserved, addressed them. "Tonight was different," he said. "I think we all have something to reflect on. Let's ensure we represent the values we claim to uphold." Sophia noticed a few coworkers offering small, respectful smiles. She didn't need their approval, but it was comforting to know her actions had been acknowledged. As she left, the envelope secure in her bag, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The money would change her life, but the lesson she had learned would change how she viewed the world forever. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual energy, but everything felt sharper to Sophia. Elon's experiment had made a lasting impact on her, the restaurant, and everyone who witnessed it. Days later, news of Elon Musk's Undercover experiment spread rapidly. Social media was abuzz and the copper elm became the center of attention. Some stories criticized the staff's initial reactions, sparking debates about empathy, judgment, and appearances. Sophia's life transformed overnight. Reporters sought her out for interviews. When she spoke, her words were simple. It wasn't about knowing who he was. It was about treating everyone with dignity. The $50,000 allowed Sophia to pursue culinary school, but more importantly, the experience gave her a platform to advocate for kindness and inclusivity. Elon, in a later interview, said the smallest actions reveal the greatest truths. Kindness isn't just about grand gestures, it's about everyday choices. The Copper Elm also made changes, implementing new training programs focused on empathy and respect. The staff, particularly those who had been dismissive, reevaluated their biases. For everyone who witnessed that night, the lesson stayed with them. The event wasn't just about a billionaire in disguise. It was a powerful message about humanity, the kind that transcends wealth and appearances. And while life moved on, Sophia and others would always remember the ripple effect of that one act of kindness.